Welcome, just Homo sapiens, to a journey back in time to a world that was wild, cold, and full of immense danger. Today we face a colossal question, a problem as big as the creatures themselves. Why did our ancient ancestors, those brave men and women of the Stone Age, choose to hunt the most dangerous animals on Earth? Why did they look at a beast that could crush them with a single step or gore them with tusks as long as a car and say, "That's dinner"? This is not a small question. This is a question about survival, about courage, and about what it truly means to be human. Our main focus for today, the star of this massive challenge, is the woolly mammoth. Picture this with me. The Ice Age. Endless plains of frozen grass, bitter winds howling, snow and ice covering everything. And there, walking across this harsh landscape, is the woolly mammoth. This wasn't just a big animal. This was a walking, breathing fortress. A true giant of the Ice Age. Imagine seeing one of these for the first time. It stood taller than most houses back then, often reaching up to 13 feet at the shoulder. That's taller than a modern-day basketball hoop. And its weight? We're talking about 6 to 8 tons. To put that into perspective, that's like trying to take down a modern-day school bus, but a school bus that can run, fight, and has razor-sharp 10-foot-long tusks. These tusks were not just for show. They were incredibly strong, curved outwards and then inwards, perfect for digging through thick snow to find food, like a giant natural shovel. But also perfect for impaling anything that got too close. And the fur. A woolly mammoth's coat could be over 3 feet thick in some places, a shaggy, reddish-brown insulation against the freezing temperatures. Underneath that thick fur was a layer of fat, sometimes up to 4 inches deep, giving them even more protection from the cold and storing vital energy. Their ears were surprisingly small compared to modern elephants, a neat trick to keep their body heat from escaping into the icy air. And their trunk? An amazing tool, strong enough to rip branches from trees, but also delicate enough to pick a single blade of grass. It had 2 finger-like tips at the end, making it incredibly precise. These animals, they were not slow or clumsy. They could charge at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour, making them a very fast and incredibly deadly target. To put that in simple terms, if a mammoth decided to run you down, you weren't outrunning it. Not with the primitive tools and the difficult terrain our ancestors faced. They mostly ate grass, a lot of it hundreds of pounds a day, just like modern elephants. They lived in herds, often led by an old, wise female, a matriarch, just like their modern cousins. This meant that if you hunted one, you weren't just facing a single beast. You were often facing a whole family of them, ready to defend each other with their immense power. A whole group of angry, charging mammoths? That's a nightmare scenario for anyone, let alone a small group of humans armed with little more than sharpened stones and sticks. Our ancestors, whether they were the Neanderthals, who we will talk more about later, or our own Homo sapiens ancestors, they had very basic technology. We're talking about stone-tipped spears, maybe some rudimentary throwing sticks, and their own clever minds. No bows and arrows, yet for many of these early hunts. No metal, just bone, wood, and carefully chipped stone. So, imagine the scene. A small band of humans, maybe 20 or 30, huddled together, eyes fixed on this immense creature, its breath steaming in the frigid air. The ground would shake when it walked. The sound of its tusks scraping the snow would be like thunder. Why would they choose to challenge this natural bulldozer? There are smaller animals, easier to hunt. Deer, wild horses, bison. Still dangerous, yes, but not in the same league as a 6-ton walking mountain. The risk was enormous. A single slip, a single missed throw, a single moment of fear, and a hunter could be gored, trampled, or crushed to death in an instant. And if the lead hunter, the most skilled spear thrower, or the most knowledgeable tracker was lost, it wasn't just one person's life. It could mean starvation for the entire group. especially during the lean, unforgiving winter months of the Ice Age. The courage required for such a hunt is almost beyond our understanding today. It wasn't just bravery. It was an extreme, calculated risk, a gamble with their very existence. This is the core of our big mammoth problem. Why take that chance? What reward could possibly be worth such an immense danger? What drove them to face the thunderous charge, the sweeping tusks, the sheer, overwhelming power of the woolly mammoth? This question sets the stage for everything that follows, because understanding their choices helps us understand a piece of ourselves, a piece of what it means to be just Homo sapiens. Now, let's really think about the stakes here. This wasn't a game. This was pure survival. The danger of hunting a mammoth wasn't just a physical threat. It was an existential one for the entire group. Imagine the planning involved. It wasn't just about running up to a mammoth and poking it with a stick. No, these were complex, coordinated operations that required immense intelligence and teamwork. First, they had to track the mammoth. In the vast, open, and often snow-covered landscapes of the Ice Age, finding a specific herd could take days, even weeks, of arduous travel in brutal conditions. Footprints in the snow, broken branches, even the lingering smell of the herd in the biting wind would be clues. Once located, the real challenge began. How to get close to such a massive, alert animal without being detected, or worse, without provoking a charge from the entire herd? They might have used the terrain to their advantage, ambushing mammoths near water sources where they gathered to drink, or at narrow passes where their movement was restricted. Sometimes they might have driven alone, perhaps injured or old, mammoth into a bog or deep snow, trapping it, slowing it down. This driving method itself was incredibly dangerous, requiring hunters to shout, wave their arms, and create noise to scare the animal in a specific direction, all while avoiding its panicked defensive attacks. Think about the energy expenditure. Running for miles, shouting, throwing heavy spears, all while battling the freezing cold and exhaustion. It was an extreme physical test. And our weapons? Simple spears, often tipped with carefully flaked stone points made from flint, chert, or obsidian. These points were sharp, yes, but against a mammoth's thick hide and bone structure, they were more like needles compared to the beast's immense size. It would take multiple hits, deep hits, to wound such an animal enough to bring it down, and each hit required getting dangerously close. A hunter might have to launch spear after spear, getting closer and closer, risking everything with each throw. The animal would be enraged, thrashing its head, kicking, and charging. Many hunters must have died or been gravely injured in these attempts. We find evidence of these struggles in archaeological sites. For example, some bone beds show huge numbers of mammoth remains, sometimes suggesting that many individuals were killed at once. But other sites show only a few, suggesting more opportunistic hunts. What is clear is that these hunts were not always successful, and the cost of failure was high. A broken leg, a goring wound, a crushed chest. These are not things that could be easily treated in the Stone Age. An injured hunter was a burden, a mouth to feed that couldn't contribute. A dead hunter was a permanent loss, a gap in the group's strength, knowledge, and genetic future. The Ice Age was a time of general scarcity. Even though the megafauna, a simple word for big animals, were abundant in some regions, resources could disappear quickly, especially in winter. Plants died back, smaller animals migrated. In such a harsh environment, a massive animal like a mammoth represented an incredible potential resource. But it came at an incredible price. Why not just stick to smaller game? Why not just scavenge? While they certainly did scavenge and hunt smaller animals, the sheer caloric and material yield from a mammoth was simply unmatched. One successful mammoth hunt could provide food for weeks, even months, for an entire group. That a powerful incentive in a world where starvation was a constant companion. It wasn't just meat, It was fat, which was crucial for energy in the freezing temperatures and for brain development. It was hide for warm clothing and shelter. It was bone for tools, weapons, and even building materials. Imagine houses made from mammoth bones, an incredible feat of engineering for the time. But still, the question nags at us. Was the reward truly worth such an extreme, life-threatening gamble? How many attempts ended in tragedy before one finally succeeded? How many lives were lost to secure that life-sustaining bounty? The balance between risk and reward was constantly at play, a brutal calculation made with every icy breath. This deepens our problem, showing us that their choices were not simple, but fraught with immense consequences, leading us to wonder even more about the unique spirit that defined them, and therefore defines us. So, after all that incredible effort, all that danger, all that risk, what did a successful mammoth hunt truly mean for these early humans? The payoff was immense, yes, but it wasn't just about a full belly for a few days. It was about survival on a scale that is hard for us to grasp today. When a mammoth was finally brought down, after maybe days of tracking and hours of fierce, desperate combat, it was a moment of incredible triumph for the entire group. This was not a quick kill. It would have been a prolonged, exhausting struggle, likely involving multiple hunters inflicting wounds over time until the giant finally succumbed. Once down, the work was far from over. Butchering a 6 to 8 ton animal with stone tools was another monumental task. Imagine trying to cut through thick hide and muscle with flint knives, carefully separating meat from bone. This process itself could take days, requiring specialized skills and incredible endurance. The meat and fat, so crucial for energy and warmth, would be processed quickly. Some would be eaten immediately in a great feast, the celebration of survival and skill. But much of it would need to be preserved. In the Ice Age, the cold itself was a freezer. They would have cached the meat in frozen pits, or perhaps dried it, extending its use for weeks or even months into the future. This provided a critical buffer against future hunger. One mammoth could provide hundreds of thousands of calories, a lifeline against starvation. And it wasn't just food. The hide, massive and tough, was painstakingly scraped clean and processed to make incredibly warm and durable clothing, vital for protection against the biting cold. Imagine wearing a coat made from mammoth hide. It would be heavy, but it would save your life. Hides were also used for building materials, creating robust shelters that offered significant protection from the elements. Then there were the bones. Mammoth bones were not just discarded. They were precious resources. Long bones could be used as tools, sometimes even as parts of weapons. Ribs could be used for structural supports in their dwellings. And most fascinating of all, in some parts of Europe and Asia, archaeologists have found incredible structures built entirely from mammoth bones, forming circles or intricate patterns. These mammoth bone houses are a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of our ancestors, turning the remains of their most dangerous prey into their very homes. And the tusks? Beyond their use as digging tools, mammoth ivory was a prized material for art. We have found beautiful carvings, small sculptures, and even musical instruments made from mammoth ivory, showcasing the deep cultural and spiritual lives of these ancient people. A successful mammoth hunt, therefore, was not just a meal. It was a complete resource package. Food, warmth, shelter, tools, and even inspiration for art. It meant survival for the entire group, the continuation of their lineage, and the strengthening of their social bonds. The sharing of the meat, the cooperative effort of the hunt, and the butchering all reinforced the community. But even with all these amazing benefits, the fundamental question remains. Was it always worth the incredible danger? Was there a point where the risk became too high, where the cost in human lives outweighed the massive reward? How did they manage the constant fear, the ever-present possibility of gruesome death? and still push forward, spear in hand. This constant struggle, this dance with danger, shaped them in profound ways. It forged their courage, sharpened their intelligence, and united their communities. Their bravery in facing the big mammoth problem is not just a curious fact from the distant past. It is a fundamental part of the human story, a testament to the incredible resilience and ambition that lives within all of us. It makes us wonder, what other dangers did they face and why? These are the questions we will explore in the next chapters, as we continue our journey to understand just Homo sapiens. So we've talked about the enormous challenge, that big mammoth problem. But now we need to dig deeper. Why did our ancestors, those tenacious Stone Age humans, actually face that mammoth's tusk? What was the driving force behind such a perilous choice? The simple answer, the most basic one, is survival. But it's much more complex than just they were hungry. Imagine living in the Ice Age, a time of extreme cold and unpredictable resources. Meat, especially animal fat, was not just preferred, it was absolutely critical. Fat is dense with calories, providing sustained energy needed to keep warm, to move, and to think in a frigid world. For our ancestors, brain development itself, especially in children, relied heavily on these fatty acids. Modern science shows us how crucial omega-3s are, and these ancient megafauna, like the woolly mammoth, were walking larders of precisely what humans needed to thrive, not just survive. A single adult mammoth could provide hundreds of thousands of calories in meat and, crucially, enormous amounts of fat. This wasn't a small deer that would feed a family for a day or two. This was a mobile grocery store that could sustain an entire band of 20 to 30 people for weeks, even months, through the brutal winters when other food sources disappeared under thick snow. Think about the economic sense in the most basic prehistoric terms. Hunting smaller animals like reindeer or wild horses also carried risks, and the return, while valuable, was comparatively low per kill. You might need to kill many small animals to get the equivalent caloric yield of one mammoth. That means more hunts, more exposure to danger over time, more wasted energy, and less bang for your buck, if you will. This concept is something modern scientists call optimal foraging theory. In simple terms, it's about getting the most energy and nutrients for the least amount of effort and risk. But in the Ice Age, sometimes the least amount of effort and risk was actually taking on the biggest risk, because the reward was so astronomically high. When smaller prey animals were scarce, or when migrating herds were out of reach, a mammoth, despite its dangers, represented a concentrated, stable, and highly rewarding target. It was a calculated gamble, but one with potentially massive payoffs that could mean the difference between life and widespread death for the entire group. They weren't just eating to live. They were eating to have enough energy to reproduce, to protect their children, to build shelters, and to develop complex societies. The proteins from the meat built strong bodies. The fats fueled their incredible brains. And the sheer volume of food meant they could stay in one area longer, conserving energy rather than constantly chasing smaller, less predictable prey across vast, frozen landscapes. Moreover, the mammoth offered more than just calories. As we touched on, the hide was indispensable for clothing and shelter, offering insulation that no other animal could match in terms of scale and thickness. The bones provided tools, weapons, even structural elements for dwellings, offering protection from predators and the elements. The tusks were a source of durable, workable ivory for art and specialized tools. So, facing the mammoth's tusk was not a choice based on recklessness. It was a fundamental, strategic decision, driven by an acute understanding of their environment, their needs, and the immense, life-sustaining value of this colossal creature. It was a choice born from the harsh realities of the Ice Age, where the biggest risk often offered the biggest, most crucial reward for the very survival and flourishing of just Homo sapiens. But how did they even begin to imagine taking down such a beast, let alone actually doing it? This is where human intelligence, our uniquely Homo sapiens spark, truly comes into play. It wasn't just brute force. It was brilliant planning, sophisticated understanding of animal behavior, and incredible teamwork that allowed them to overcome the sheer physical dominance of a mammoth. Our ancestors were expert naturalists. They observed the mammoth's habits, their migration routes, where they watered, where they slept, how they reacted to threats, and their social structures. They knew that an old, solitary male or a young, injured animal might be a slightly easier target than a robust, protective herd. They also became masters of their environment, using the landscape itself as a tool. Imagine a group of hunters strategically driving a mammoth, or even a small herd, towards a natural trap. A bog, a deep pit hidden by snow and branches, a steep cliff face, or a narrow canyon. This wasn't a simple feat, it required incredible coordination, perhaps using fire, shouts, and spear throwing to panic and funnel the animals in a specific direction. The danger during such a drive was immense. Getting caught in a stampede meant instant death. Archaeological sites across Europe and North America show evidence of these kill sites, where hundreds of mammoths were driven over cliffs or into natural traps, indicating large-scale, highly organized hunts that span generations. For instance, some sites in what is now the Czech Republic show evidence of huge mammoth bone accumulations, suggesting repeated, deliberate drives into natural depressions. Technological innovation was also key. While early Stone Age humans might have relied on simple sharpened sticks, over time, their tools became more refined. The invention of the spear thrower, also known as an atlatl, was a game changer. This simple yet revolutionary device essentially extended the hunter's arm, allowing them to hurl spears with much greater velocity and from a safer distance. Imagine the difference. Instead of having to get within arm's reach of a charging mammoth to stab it, you could launch a deadly projectile from 50 feet away, greatly increasing both safety and effectiveness. Spear points themselves evolved from crude flakes to exquisitely crafted bifacial points like the famous Clovis points, designed for maximum penetration and blood loss. These points were hafted, meaning they were attached securely to wooden shafts, often with natural glues or sinews. The complex process of flint knapping, creating these specialized tools, required immense skill and knowledge, passed down through generations. Communication and social structure also played a crucial role. A mammoth hunt was a collective enterprise, not an individual act. It required dozens of people working together, each with specific roles: scouts, drivers, spear throwers, and later, butchers. This level of cooperation and division of labor speaks volumes about the advanced social intelligence of our ancestors. It wasn't just about survival of the fittest individual. It was about the survival of the fittest group, leveraging collective brainpower and coordinated effort to overcome seemingly impossible odds. The ability to plan, innovate, and work as a cohesive unit allowed them to face that mammoth's tusk not just with courage, but with cunning and intellect, showcasing the unique ingenuity that defines just Homo sapiens. Beyond the sheer practicalities of survival and the brilliance of their hunting strategies, facing the mammoth's tusk also held profound social, cultural, and even spiritual significance for these ancient people. Bringing down a creature of such immense power and size was an act that undoubtedly shaped their entire societal fabric. Imagine the prestige, the immense respect, and the status accorded to the successful mammoth hunters. These individuals, those who stood brave against the charge and delivered the killing blow, would have been revered, their bravery and skill likely ensuring them a prominent place within the community, perhaps even influencing mate selection and leadership roles. This wasn't just about filling bellies. It was about solidifying social hierarchies and demonstrating mastery over a dangerous world. The act of the hunt itself, with its shared danger and collective triumph, acted as a powerful bonding agent for the group. Surviving such a terrifying ordeal together, sharing the risks, and then sharing the bounty, would have forged incredibly strong ties of camaraderie and loyalty. The ensuing feast was not just a meal. It was a communal celebration, a ritual of gratitude and renewal, reinforcing their shared identity and interdependence. Around the flickering light of the campfire, the stories of the hunt would have been recounted, passed down, and perhaps embellished, becoming integral parts of their oral traditions. These tales would not only entertain, but also educate, teaching younger generations about hunting techniques, animal behavior, and the values of courage and cooperation. Moreover, the mammoth became a central figure in their artistic and spiritual worlds. We see stunning evidence of this in the famous cave paintings of places like Lascaux and Chauvet, where mammoths are depicted with breathtaking realism and power. These weren't just simple drawings. They were often deep within the caves, suggesting sacred spaces where powerful symbols were created. We also find intricate carvings of mammoths in ivory, small sculptures that were perhaps amulets, totems, or representations of spirit animals. This suggests that the mammoth was not merely a source of food, but held a significant symbolic meaning, perhaps representing strength, fertility, or even a connection to the spiritual realm. For some groups, there might have been rituals associated with the hunt, perhaps seeking permission for the animal spirit or offering thanks for its sacrifice. This reverence, even in the act of killing, speaks to a deep, complex relationship between humans and the natural world, a relationship far more nuanced than simple predator-prey dynamics. The very scale of the mammoth and the monumental effort required to hunt it likely fostered a sense of awe and respect that transcended purely practical considerations. The development of specialized roles within the community, where some are hunters, others toolmakers, and still others possibly shamans or artists, could also have been driven by the complex requirements of megafauna hunting and processing. This intricate web of practical necessity, intellectual innovation, and cultural significance painted a picture of early human societies that were far from primitive in their social organization and symbolic thought. Their decision to face the mammoth's tusk was a testament not only to their will to survive, but also to their burgeoning capacity for complex thought, social cohesion, and spiritual depth, truly defining what it means to be just Homo sapiens. Now that we understand the deep reasons why they pursued these giants, let's turn our attention to another powerful hunter of the Ice Age, the Neanderthals, and how they, too, faced the challenge of hunting other colossal creatures. Last time, we explored the incredible intelligence and cooperation that allowed our Homo sapiens ancestors to face the mammoth's tusk. But our journey into prehistoric courage wouldn't be complete without talking about the Neanderthals. These strong, robust humans were not just distant cousins. They were another branch of the human family tree, incredibly successful for hundreds of thousands of years across Europe and Asia. And like our own ancestors, they also hunted giants, facing their own versions of the big mammoth problem. Forget the old cartoons of knuckle-dragging brutes. Neanderthals were intelligent, skilled, and incredibly resilient hunters. Their bodies were built for the cold, with broad shoulders, strong bones, and powerful muscles, perfectly adapted to the harsh Ice Age environment. Their brain size was actually comparable to, and in some cases even larger than, that of modern humans, indicating significant cognitive abilities. They lived primarily during the Middle Paleolithic, a period that spans roughly 300,000 to 30,000 years ago, overlapping with the arrival of Homo sapiens in many regions. While Homo sapiens often relied on projectiles like the atlatl, Neanderthals specialized in close-quarters hunting, using heavy thrusting spears. These weren't designed to be thrown from a distance. They were built for direct impact, for a powerful stab into the side of a massive animal. Imagine the raw courage this required. It meant getting incredibly close, within feet of a furious, dangerous beast to deliver a killing blow. This style of hunting is reflected in the fossil record. Neanderthal skeletons often show a high number of healed fractures, especially in the head, neck, and torso areas. These injury patterns are eerily similar to those seen in modern-day rodeo riders, who also face large, powerful animals up close. This suggests a lifestyle filled with intense physical danger, a testament to their bravery and resilience. They didn't just hunt mammoths, though archaeological evidence for Neanderthal mammoth hunting is strong in certain regions. They also targeted a terrifying array of other megafauna. Think about the woolly rhinoceros, a creature even more heavily built than its modern cousins, with a massive horn, thick skin, and a surly disposition. Or the giant deer, also known as the Irish elk, with antlers spanning up to 12 feet, capable of impaling a hunter with ease. Cave bears, formidable predators themselves, were also on their menu, though perhaps more often hunted during hibernation in caves. Steppe bison, much larger and more aggressive than today's bison, also represented a significant challenge. Neanderthals used their formidable strength and intelligence to tackle these beasts. They didn't have the wide array of specialized tools that Homo sapiens developed later, but their tools, primarily Mysterian stone tools, were incredibly effective for their style of hunting. These included sharp stone scrapers for processing hides and heavy-duty flakes used as spear points. Evidence suggests they often hunted in groups, employing sophisticated strategies. They understood the terrain, using natural features like ravines, sinkholes, or muddy areas to trap or slow down their prey. For example, at the site of La Cotte de Saint-Berlade in Jersey, Neanderthals repeatedly drove herds of mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses off cliffs, a testament to their long-term planning and deep understanding of animal behavior in the local landscape. This wasn't a one-off event. It happened over millennia, shaping the environment and their own culture. The sheer scale of these kills points to a highly organized society capable of coordinating large groups for complex hunting operations. Like Homo sapiens, Neanderthals gained immense value from these hunts. Not just the nutrient-rich meat and fat crucial for surviving the cold, but also the hides for clothing and shelter and bones for tools and fuel. So, while their methods might have differed, the underlying drive, the courage, and the reliance on collective intelligence to tackle the biggest, most dangerous animals for survival were very much a shared human trait, tying the Neanderthals closely to our own story as just Homo sapiens. The intense physicality of Neanderthal hunting goes beyond just the act of killing. Their entire lifestyle was an incredible testament to human endurance and adaptation. The archaeological record shows that Neanderthals were highly specialized hunters, often focusing on a single, dominant prey species within their territory, whether it was reindeer in some areas or horses in others, or those massive woolly rhinos and mammoths. This specialization meant they developed an intimate knowledge of these animals, their habits, and vulnerabilities. For example, scientists have studied the teeth of Neanderthals and found patterns of wear that suggest a diet rich in meat, confirming their status as apex predators of their time. The sheer caloric intake needed to fuel their robust, muscular bodies, especially in a cold environment, was immense. A diet heavy in protein and fat from megafauna was not just a preference. It was a biological necessity for them to sustain their powerful physiques and active lifestyles. Their mastery of fire was also a critical element in their hunting success. While we often think of fire for warmth and cooking, it was also a powerful tool in the hunt. Fire could be used to drive animals towards traps, to create smoke to disorient prey, or even a clear brush to improve visibility for the ambush. The ability to control fire meant they could process the meat more effectively, making it easier to digest and safer to eat, reducing the risk of illness. Neanderthals also had a sophisticated understanding of tool making. Their Mysterian tool culture, characterized by the levallois technique, allowed them to create highly effective stone flakes from carefully prepared coarse stones. These flakes were not just accidental chips. They were intentionally shaped to be sharp and durable, perfect for spear points, scrapers, and knives. While they might not have had the composite tools and projectile weapons of later Homo sapiens, their toolkit was perfectly suited for their close-range, high-impact hunting style. The spear points they crafted were typically larger and heavier than those used by Homo sapiens, designed to cause massive internal damage upon impact, relying on the hunter's strength to drive them deep into the animal. Imagine the craftsmanship, the hours spent carefully shaping flint or chert, the knowledge passed down through generations on how to get the perfect edge, the ideal weight distribution for a thrusting spear. It was a complex skill craft, and their societal structures, though perhaps smaller and less sprawling than some Homo sapiens groups, were also built around this intense hunting lifestyle. Cooperation was not just beneficial, it was essential for survival. Caring for the injured, sharing the bounty, passing on knowledge. These were all critical elements of Neanderthal life. The social bonds forged through the shared danger of the hunt would have been incredibly strong, ensuring the survival of the group in a world where individual strength, while important, was rarely enough. This shows us that intelligence and social complexity weren't exclusive to Homo sapiens. Neanderthals also possessed these traits, applying them to their own unique and incredibly brave approach to hunting the giants of their world. The image of Neanderthals as brutal, unintelligent cavemen is really an outdated one. Modern archaeology and anthropology paint a much richer picture. Complex, adaptive, and deeply human beings. Their incredible resilience in facing down the Ice Age's most fearsome creatures highlights a critical evolutionary point. Both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, despite their differences in body plan and some hunting technologies, converge on a strategy of hunting megafauna. This suggests that hunting big, dangerous animals was not just an option, but often a necessary and highly adaptive strategy for long-term survival in challenging environments. This shared characteristic, this common thread of courage and ingenuity in the face of immense danger, tells us something profound about what it means to be human. It's about problem solving, about pushing boundaries, about collective effort, and about a relentless drive to secure resources for the group. For Neanderthals, this wasn't just about food. It was about defining their place in the ecosystem, asserting their dominance as top predators, even against animals that dwarf them in size and power. Their robust bodies, which might seem less gracile or delicate than Homo sapiens, were actually their strength, perfectly tuned for a life of intense physical activity and close-quarters combat. Their thick bones and powerful musculature meant they could absorb more punishment, recover from injuries, and exert incredible force when thrusting a spear. Consider the implications of their survival for hundreds of thousands of years. They were not simply lucky, they were incredibly good at what they did. Their ability to adapt to changing climates, to survive periods of intense cold, and to continuously hunt megafauna, even when conditions were at their harshest, is a testament to their intelligence and resilience. The injuries found on their skeletons, while showing a dangerous lifestyle, also show that they often survive these injuries. This implies a level of care and communal support, where injured individuals were looked after and helped to recover, rather than being left to die. This speaks to a deeper social complexity, a sense of empathy and community that challenges the old, simplistic narratives about Neanderthals. They buried their dead, sometimes with grave goods, which suggests a belief system and a respect for their fallen comrades. These aren't the actions of mere brutes. These are the actions of intelligent, social beings with a rich inner life. So, when we look at a Neanderthal spear point or a heel fracture on Neanderthal forearm, we're not just seeing an ancient artifact or an old wound. We're seeing a story of bravery, of ingenuity, of communal strength, and of a relentless will to survive. We're seeing another incredible example of just Homo sapiens, in all their diverse forms, facing down the giants of their world and emerging victorious time and time again. These experiences, this constant engagement with danger and the immense rewards of the hunt, would have profoundly shaped their culture, their technology, and their very understanding of their place in the world, setting the stage for how they lived after the big kill, which is what we will explore next. We've talked about the enormous risks, the incredible ingenuity, and the sheer courage that drove both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals to face down the giants of the Ice Age. But what happened after the big kill? What did life look like once a woolly mammoth or a giant deer was finally brought down? This is where fire, feast, and family come into play, forming the very bedrock of prehistoric life and truly showcasing the complex social fabric of these ancient communities. Imagine the scene: the triumphant return of the hunting party, perhaps dragging or carrying choice cuts of meat or leading the way back to the fallen giant. The entire camp would erupt in a mix of relief, excitement, and anticipation. This wasn't just food. It was a reaffirmation of their survival, of victory against the relentless forces of nature. The communal aspect of the kill was immediate. The immense size of megafauna meant that no single family, or even a small group, could consume it all alone, especially not before it spoiled. This necessitated sharing. This act of sharing the spoils of a dangerous hunt wasn't just an act of generosity. It was a fundamental pillar of their social structure, a form of ancient social insurance. Those who were strong hunters today might be injured tomorrow. Those who were less skilled could still contribute in other ways. By sharing, everyone benefited, reinforcing the group's cohesion and ensuring that even the sick, the elderly, or the very young who couldn't hunt were sustained. This sharing created a vast network of reciprocity, solidifying bonds and fostering trust within the band. It was a tangible expression of we are all in this together. The act of butchering itself was a massive communal undertaking. We're talking about tons of meat, fat, and bone. It wasn't a quick process. With only stone tools, it would have taken many people, perhaps over several days, to efficiently process such a huge carcass. Specialized tools would be used: sharp flakes for cutting muscle and skin, heavier choppers for breaking bones to extract marrow, which was a highly prized source of fat. Evidence from archaeological sites, like the Gedinas cave in Austria, shows specialized tools used for butchering large game, suggesting a well-understood division of labor. The cold environment was both a challenge and a blessing. While it made the work difficult, it also acted as a natural freezer, preserving the meat for longer periods than in warmer climates. But even with the cold, there's an urgency to process the kill before scavengers like dire wolves, cave lions, or even other human groups arrived. This highlights the constant competition for resources. The meat would have been prepared in various ways. Some would be cooked over fire immediately, providing a celebratory feast, filling hungry bellies with warmth and nourishment. Other portions would be dried, smoked, or even frozen and cached in pits in the ground for later use, especially during the harsh winter months when fresh kills were scarce. This strategic food storage demonstrates incredible foresight and planning, essential for surviving the long, lean periods of the Ice Age. Beyond the immediate nutritional benefits, the feast itself was a powerful social ritual. Sitting around the fire, sharing the freshly cooked meat, telling stories of the hunt. These moments were critical for reinforcing cultural identity and transmitting knowledge. The fire, which we touched upon briefly before, was not just for cooking. It was the heart of the home, the source of light, warmth, and protection against predators. It drew people together, fostering conversation, planning, and teaching. It allowed for longer active hours, extended into the darkness, which might have been crucial for planning and socializing in environments with short daylight hours during winter. The heat from a fire made the tough meat of older megafauna more digestible, releasing more nutrients and making it safer to eat by killing bacteria. This improved diet, particularly the access to easily digestible protein and fat, is often linked to the growth of larger, more complex brains in early humans, a crucial step in our evolution. It's a fascinating feedback loop. Intelligent humans hunted megafauna, which provided the high-quality diet needed for more intelligence, which in turn led to more sophisticated hunting techniques. This cycle drove our ancestors forward. The act of gathering around the fire, sharing food and stories, also facilitated language development. Imagine the need to communicate complex hunting strategies or to teach tool-making skills. The social context of the feast would have been a perfect incubator for the growth of language, complex thought, and cultural practices. This period after the kill, far from being just about eating, was a dynamic hub of social, technological, and cultural evolution, defining much of what it meant to be just Homo sapiens. But the life after the big kill extended far beyond just the immediate feast and food preservation. It encompassed the entire spectrum of prehistoric innovation, resourcefulness, and social ingenuity. Every single part of the megafauna carcass was utilized with astonishing efficiency, a testament to a world where waste was not an option. The bones, as we mentioned, were far more than just structural support for the animal. They became versatile raw materials. Long bones, carefully broken and shaped, were turned into durable tools like scrapers, awls, and even spear points when stone was scarce. At some sites, like the famous Kostiki Borshchivo region in Russia, entire dwellings were constructed from mammoth bones, forming intricate circular structures, sometimes covered with hides. Imagine the architectural skill and collective effort required to move, arrange, and interlock these massive bones to create a functional shelter that could withstand the harsh ice age winds and snow. These mammoth bone houses weren't just simple huts. They were sophisticated, multi-purpose structures that provided warmth, shelter, and a symbolic center for the community. This demonstrates an incredible level of planning, engineering, and cooperative labor that contradicts any simplistic view of our ancestors. The hides, after being meticulously scraped and treated, provided unparalleled warmth and protection. Imagine wrapping yourself in a mammoth hide during an Ice Age winter. It would be incredibly heavy, yes, but it would literally save your life. These hides were tailored into clothing, sewn together using bone needles and sinew thread, creating complex garments that were essential for survival in sub-zero temperatures. This skill of hide processing and tailoring points to a deep understanding of material science and a level of dexterity that is often underestimated. The fat, beyond being eaten, was also used as fuel for lamps, providing light within caves or shelters, extending their ability to work and socialize beyond daylight hours. These fat lamps, often simple depressions in stone filled with animal fat and a wick, were critical for activities like tool making, carving, and social interaction in the dark. The sinews, strong fibers for muscles and tendons, were dried and used as ropes, cords, and threads for sewing. The gut and bladder could be cleaned and used as containers for water or food storage. Even the mammoth hair, particularly the finer undercoat, could have been used for insulation or woven into simple mats. This holistic utilization of every part of the animal underscores a profound respect for the kill and an advanced practical knowledge of their environment. It wasn't just about hunting, it was about full resource management. The success of these megafauna hunts allowed for a degree of stability that fostered other aspects of human culture. With basic survival needs met for extended periods, groups could dedicate time to other pursuits. This is where we see the flourishing of art, as mentioned with the ivory carvings and cave paintings, which often depicted the very animals they hunted. These artistic expressions were not idle pastimes. They likely held deep spiritual or educational significance, perhaps serving as records of successful hunts or as a way to connect with the animal spirits or to teach hunting strategies to the young. It also allowed for the development of more complex social rituals, storytelling, and potentially early forms of music and dance, which further strengthened community bonds. The periods of relative abundance after a successful hunt would have provided opportunities for leisure, for innovation, and for the transmission of knowledge from elders to younger generations. This wasn't a life of constant, desperate struggle. It was a life punctuated by moments of immense challenge and followed by periods of profound communal prosperity, all centered around the incredible bounty provided by their dangerous prey. This intricate dance between risk and reward, between the hunt and the subsequent flourishing of community, truly defines the incredible journey of just Homo sapiens. And it wasn't just about their own communities. The bounty from successful megafauna hunt could even foster early forms of intergroup relationships. Imagine a large kill site with more meat than a single small band could possibly process or consume before spoilage. This access could lead to exchange with neighboring groups. Perhaps a portion of the meat or hides was traded for specialized stone tools found in a different region, or for exotic shells, or for information about distant hunting grounds. This concept of reciprocal exchange, driven by the surplus from megafauna, could have been an early form of economic and social networking, expanding the social horizons of these prehistoric people beyond their immediate family unit. This isn't just speculation. Archaeological evidence sometimes shows materials found far from their geological origin, suggesting early trade networks. The ability to gather and store such vast quantities of resources also likely influenced migration patterns. Instead of constantly following smaller, more dispersed herds, groups could establish more semi-permanent camps near reliable mammoth hunting grounds or kill sites, allowing for more elaborate shelters, more complex social structures, and more time for specialized activities. Think about the long-term impact on population dynamics. A stable and abundant food source for megafauna would have supported larger populations and potentially higher birth rates, contributing to the expansion of human groups across landscapes. The rich, fatty diet, particularly crucial for pregnant women and growing children, would have improved health and survival rates. This means that the successful hunting of dangerous megafauna wasn't just about individual or group survival in the short term. It had profound, long-lasting demographic and cultural impacts that shaped the very trajectory of human prehistory. Furthermore, the knowledge and skills gained from megafauna hunting would have been incredibly valuable and sought after. Master hunters, those who consistently brought down big game, would have been leaders, revered figures whose expertise was vital for the group's survival. Their knowledge of animal behavior, tracking, and butchering techniques would have been central to their society. The traditions and rituals surrounding the hunt, the feasts, and the utilization of the carcass would have formed a robust cultural heritage, passed down through generations. These were not primitive, fleeting moments. They were deeply embedded practices that defined their existence. So, from the initial, terrifying confrontation with the mammoth's tusk, through the careful butchering and preservation, to the communal feasting around the fire, and the innovative use of every single part of the animal, the life after the big kill was a period of intense social activity, technological development, and cultural flourishing. It was a time when the rewards of immense courage truly paid off, shaping the very essence of human societies and paving the way for our species' remarkable journey. This rich history sets the stage for our final chapter, where we will reflect on what their courage, their challenges, and their ingenuity mean for us, just Homo sapiens today. From the immense big mammoth problem to the intricate life after the big kill, we've journeyed through the astounding world of our prehistoric ancestors. We've seen how both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, with their distinct methods and shared bravery, tackled the most dangerous megafauna. But why does any of this matter to us, living in our comfortable modern world? What does their courage, our story, really mean for just Homo sapiens today? The echoes of those ancient hunts reverberate through our very being. The act of confronting a beast, many times their size, wasn't just about food. It was about forging the traits that define humanity. Think about problem solving. Every megafauna hunt was a complex puzzle requiring observation, planning, communication, and adaptation. This relentless pressure to innovate, to outsmart instead of outmuscle, pushed the boundaries of early human intelligence. The invention of the atlatl, the strategic use of terrain, the intricate social coordination, these weren't random occurrences. They were direct responses to the monumental challenge of bringing down a mammoth or a woolly rhino. This continuous demand for ingenuity over hundreds of thousands of years honed our ancestors' brains, leading to the sophisticated cognitive abilities we possess today. It's no exaggeration to say that facing the mammoth's task helped sculpt the human mind as we know it. Consider the role of cooperation and community. No single individual could bring down a mammoth alone. It was always a collective effort. This fostered deep social bonds, mutual reliance, and a strong sense of group identity. The sharing of resources, the care for the injured, the transmission of knowledge from generation to generation. These were all critical for survival, and they laid the groundwork for complex human societies. The very concept of teamwork that we value so much today can be traced back to those prehistoric hunts. These were not simply groups of individuals living side by side. They were highly integrated communities, bound by shared danger and shared triumph. This isn't just a romantic idea. It's supported by the archaeological record. Evidence of long-term care for individuals with severe injuries or disabilities who would have been unable to contribute to hunting shows a deep level of empathy and social support. This communal care is a hallmark of human compassion and is a direct consequence of the interdependence fostered by dangerous megafauna hunting. It's a powerful reminder that our strength often lies not in individual prowess, but in our ability to work together, to support one another, and to build resilient communities. And what about courage itself? The sheer nerve required to face a charging mammoth, armed with little more than a sharpened stick, is almost unfathomable. This wasn't just physical bravery, it was psychological resilience. The ability to push past fear, to strategize under immense pressure, and to persevere despite repeated failures, is a profound human trait. This courage, born from necessity, became embedded in our species' genetic and cultural makeup. It's the underlying drive that allows us to tackle seemingly impossible problems today, whether it's exploring space, curing diseases, or building complex global societies. This bravery wasn't confined to a few heroic individuals. It was a pervasive characteristic within these hunting communities. Every member, from the children learning the skills to the elders passing on wisdom, was part of this brave endeavor. They understood the risks, the potential for gruesome death, but they faced it because the alternative was extinction. Their courage created a legacy of boldness and determination that continues to define us. It allowed them to not just survive, but to thrive in one of the planet's harshest periods, leaving us with a rich tapestry of innovations, social structures, and cultural expressions. This is the origin story of our collective spirit, a testament to the indomitable will of just Homo sapiens. But the legacy of megafauna hunting extends beyond just our psychological and social traits. It also profoundly shaped our biological evolution and our relationship with the natural world. The high-protein, high-fat diet derived from these massive animals fueled the development of our large brains, a key characteristic that sets us apart from other primates. Without such a consistent and rich food source, it's debatable whether our brains would have grown to their current size and complexity. The energy demands of a large brain are immense, and megafauna provided the perfect package of nutrients to meet those demands. Furthermore, the specialized skills required for hunting and processing these animals led to the evolution of specific physical traits. Our hands, with their incredible dexterity, became adept at crafting sophisticated tools. Our bipedalism, allowing for efficient long-distance tracking and carrying of meat, became even more advantageous. Our vision and hearing were finely tuned for observing prey and detecting danger on vast landscapes. We are, in many ways, literally built by the challenges of the Ice Age hunt. The decline and eventual extinction of many megafauna species as the Ice Age ended and human hunting pressure increased also mark a significant turning point in our story. It's a complex issue, with climate change and human impact both playing roles, but it teaches us about our profound ability to alter ecosystems. This period of megafauna hunting highlights our role as a dominant force in the natural world, responsibility we continue to grapple with today. This deep connection to hunting megafauna also sparked early forms of environmental awareness and resource management. While they hunted to survive, there's evidence that some groups understood the importance of sustainable hunting practices, perhaps not consciously in a modern sense, but through observing animal populations and ensuring future generations would also have prey. The communal aspect extended to managing resources, not just consuming them. This foundational understanding of resource allocation and ecological impact, born from living in such close proximity to and dependence on massive animal populations, provides insights into the roots of our relationship with the environment. Moreover, the shift from purely hunting and gathering to agriculture, which began much later, can also be understood as a long-term consequence of the strategies developed during the megafauna hunting era. The ability to plan, to store food, and to innovate technologically, all honed by facing dangerous prey, provided the cognitive and social toolkit necessary to eventually domesticate plants and animals, leading to the Neolithic Revolution. In a way, the challenging life of a mammoth hunter laid the groundwork for settled agriculture and the rise of civilization. So, when we look back at our ancestors, whether Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, risking their lives against a woolly mammoth or a giant rhino, we're not just observing a historical curiosity. We're witnessing the crucible in which human identity was forged. We see the origins of our problem-solving skills, our capacity for complex teamwork, our relentless drive for innovation, and our incredible courage. Their willingness to face that terrifying task, to endure the brutal cold, and to work together against overwhelming odds is not just their story. It is fundamentally our story. It is the narrative of just Homo sapiens, a species defined by its ability to adapt, to overcome, and to dream big, even in the face of the biggest, most dangerous challenges. It's what allowed us to survive the Ice Age and eventually to shape the entire planet. And that brings us to the end of this journey back in time, delving into why our prehistoric ancestors hunted such dangerous megafauna. If this deep dive into prehistoric courage and ingenuity has sparked your curiosity, please let us know what you think in the comments below. Your opinions and questions are super important to us. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Those likes are our way of knowing we're making content you love, and they're like our pay. And if you want to keep exploring the incredible story of just Homo sapiens with us, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video with anyone who loves a good adventure through time. We'd also love to hear your suggestions for future topics you'd like us to cover. Your feedback helps us continue making more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.